Hello everybody, MechaZardX here, back at it again to give you another very exciting video. And for today, you know what, we had that Nintendo Direct, that February Nintendo Direct, what was it, about a month ago or something like that? And I just started sitting down and thinking to myself, I was like, we had some cool announcements, right? We had Metroid Prime Remastered, that was Shadow Drop and whatnot. Thinking back at it, Advance Wars, that one's coming out here soon, in the springtime and whatnot, though. Got a new look at Tears of the Kingdom, okay. Pikmin 4, we know that's coming out in July and whatnot, though. We got the addition of, Game Boy and Game Boy Advance added to the NSO, really nice stuff, but when you start sitting there and start thinking about it, it's like, there was nothing in that presentation that was brand new. Like, it's nothing that we knew about going into this presentation that we hadn't already known about or has been currently in the works for quite some time. And now we got all of these rumors and stuff going around and stuff like that. People saying that there's some rumors stuff leaking out of the manufacturing companies where they could be making the Switch version 2, not a Switch Pro, but what could be coming next after the Nintendo Switch. Because mind you, we just passed the 6th year of the Nintendo Switch being out there on the market. So it's currently in its 7th year. All eyes are kind of looking for what's next for Nintendo, what could be that next successor to the Nintendo Switch. So a lot of that rumbling is going on. And then I started tying that with, we don't really know anything kind of beyond the release point of Pikmin 4. Like, that second half of the year is pretty bare. So in this video today, I wanted to go through and talk about the expectation for Nintendo's second half, everything from July to the tail end of December for 2023. But if you hadn't already done so, make sure to go ahead and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing in the foreseeable future. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight up into this video. Alright, so first off, when you look at all those Nintendo Directs that we had, we've been getting up until this point, everything, if you go all the way back to, January of 2017, when they did that big blowout presentation for the Nintendo Switch, what that system was going to be about, the games are all coming to it. We knew that, Breath of the Wild was going to be one of the first games. We knew Orange was coming out right around the corner. We knew Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was coming. And then looking in that second half of the year, we also knew games such as Mario Odyssey dropping out in that October month, and even Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Shoot, man, didn't think we were going to get another Xenoblade Chronicles game, but that was coming out in December of 2017. So, and I think from that point onward, when you start looking at all those different games, every time we had a Nintendo Direct, whether it was a February-ish Direct, it could have been January, it could have been March at the latest, when we had our typical, E3 time, a June Nintendo Direct, or whether it's usually the fall Direct that normally happens in September, at any given point throughout Nintendo's history, at least leading up to the year of COVID in 2020, we at least knew some game that was being currently worked on at some point that we knew that was coming in the next half. Whether we're in the first half of the year, we knew something that was coming out in the second half, or the second half was coming out in the first half of the next year, or sometimes they reveal a game a year early, so we knew about, 2 halves early or whatnot, though. But no matter what time frame we were in leading up to COVID, we always knew what was kind of coming next out on the system. Now, once COVID came into the picture, things kind of went and, into a tizzy, whatnot, though. World events, everything like that. The whole gaming industry was kind of really shaken up from its core, whatnot, though. Mind you, in 2020, we started getting like weird shadow drops of certain games and stuff, like those Twitter drops or whatnot. Like, remember when Paper Mario the Origami King came out? Yeah, that was revealed during one of those drops. We also got Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity also dropping out in that time frame as well. And we also had that Mario Direct that was also in that COVID year as well, though. So bear in mind, keeping 2020 out of range and whatnot, though. 2021 we had all those third-party partner showcases happening, so it was like it was a weird time. But by 2022 we started picking the ball back up, and we still knew about certain projects leading up to it, though. But when you sit down and look at that last Direct we got last month at that Nintendo Direct, February 2023, look at all of the announcements we got. Some cool ones. I mentioned Game Boy Advance, mentioned about Metroid Prime Remaster, Shadow dropping on the service. When we also had Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, that finally had a official date dropping now in the springtime, considering how world events had kind of pushed and delayed that game out. It had some really nice stuff, but when you sit down and look at it, it was like there was nothing in that presentation that was brand new, a game or an IP that we had no idea going into this presentation about, that we hadn't already knew of or haven't already heard about already. Like, even when you look at Tears of the Kingdom, we already knew that game was coming out. We already knew Pikmin 4 was coming out and whatnot, though. So it's like the only kind of surprise reveal was Metroid Prime Remaster, but that was Shadow Drop. So that has came and that has went in the blink of an eye. So it's like when you look at the calendar, we don't know anything else that's coming after July of this year. And then that's kind of, raising some questions since red flags. I don't think we ever hit this point, at least in the Switch's life, bearing COVID out of the picture though, where we got to a certain point in the Switch's life where we don't really know what's kind of beyond the horizon. Yes, technically there is Metroid Prime 4 that is on the horizon, but at this point where that game is at right now, I would not be surprised if that's just kind of saved for the successor of what comes after the Switch, and maybe to do a dual drop. Maybe it's they drop like one for the Switch and one for the future successor. I think that's where that game is at least at this current point in time. So that brings in the question, what's going to be happening next in the second half of 2022 beyond Pikmin 4 in July? Now, I think the decision making that Nintendo's going to be doing is, I really do honestly feel like a new successor to the Switch is currently right around the corner. Now, whether or not that's just a full blow-on thing that could have some backwards compatibility, or there might be some reports coming around from like Jeff Grubb or something like that, where it's like, hey, it could be like a Game Boy to Game Boy Color situation where you're going to have some like exclusive games that could only work on this new version of the upgraded Switch. However, it can still run everything fine on the previous generation. Whatever we get, I feel like something is around the corner, and I feel like it very well would drop in 2024. So if that be the case, you think Nintendo will start preparing some titles for that system and start getting the runway ahead of the game? Because even when you look at this newest bit of news that we got, yes, Nintendo has officially confirmed that they're not coming to E3 of 2023. And when you sit down and think about that, it's kind of interesting how they said that, and quote, they said it's that we're strong supporters of the ESA and E3, but where we're currently at right now with our business decisions and whatnot, though, time is not allowing us to be able to partake in this year's show. It just doesn't line up with their scheduling. And it's kind of interesting how they're saying this right before what could be another new system coming out in the distant horizon, though. So what I'm thinking is, at least if I were personally Nintendo, whatnot, though, that head CEO, there's a bunch of games that they dropped previously, whether it was like basically January with Fire Emblem Engage and some of the games we got in past year, within last year though, where that's a lot of different games that are getting expansion passes, DLC and stuff like that. I feel like the second half of the year is going to be primarily filled with that. Let's go down the list of all the different games that got DLC confirmed, at least at this point though. First off, Fire Emblem Engage. That came out in January of this year. That one already has an expansion pack. They've been doing multiple ways for that game. They're going to have a brand new story part for the expansion pass, and that's going to drop some point in the second half of the year where all that DLC is going to be concluded. We do have that game. Second up, we have Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that just got revealed to have DLC coming. First wave is going to be dropping out in 2023. The second half is, they said winter. Well, technically they say fall and they say winter. So I'm thinking fall. That's probably going to be roughly around the holiday time. And what it's saying winter, it's kind of weird. Do they do it by fiscal quarters, or do they do it also by the actual seasonal calendar or whatnot though? So winter could easily be early 2024, so you never know with them. But that's another thing we have for DLC confirmed. Next up, we have Splatoon 3. We already have, it's split up into two waves as well. Part 1, we already have that access to with Inkopolis. You're able to go back to the first area within Splatoon 1, explore that area. It basically acts the same as the Splatoon 3 area, but with the Splatoon 1 spin on it though. But the main kicker is that extra DLC that's going to be featuring Pearl and Marina. That's going to be scheduled for some point in the second half of the year. So that's like DLC number 3. Then you look at DLC number 4, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a game that we got in last summer of 2022. that one is still getting its multiple waves, and by the time we finally do get to that final wave that's gonna have the brand new story content, it could easily fall into the second half of the year. It might still be primed around that summertime slot, so basically almost a whole year since the original launch of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, we're gonna get that. That's all the confirmed first party games are gonna have DLC. That is quite a bit, and most of those are your upper tier ones, the ones that are, you know, well known, well acclaimed, and have like a lot of, you know, fans behind those games. Then you start looking at, well, there is a third party game that has a first party IP up in it, that being Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So remind y'all, that game has DLC as well, and there's going to be a new story segment added in there as well. It's actually going to feature Rayman up in there though, so you gotta have to keep all of that in mind, because you know there's been a lot of people that have been going out in droves buying that game as well, so you got to keep that in mind. And the last one, while nothing is yet confirmed, there is some stuff that I feel like we might very well get some DLC for that, and that would be Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, with this title, I do really think that we're going to get some DLC from it, because considering how when you look back at Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, we did manage to get DLC for that. That was split up into two different ways. Like you have one being like the trials and whatnot though, see how long you can last. The second one adding brand new story elements to it. You had a whole new explorable dungeon up inside of it though, so they did that with the first game. Considering how we have all these other games that are going to get DLC and expansion packs, I mean, it would be kind of crazy for Nintendo not to do it at this point, like, right? So I'm honestly thinking the second half of this year is going to be primarily geared around DLC. Now, you can't do 100% all things DLC though, but it will definitely be able to bridge a lot of gaps between release titles while you're still trying to wait on some things though. But I feel like, you know, in order to, you know, build the bridges or whatnot though, you got to have those firm posts or whatnot though. So you got to have a couple of games coming out, stuff that may be quick and easy things to make that don't take up a lot of time. And I think one of those games could very well be another remaster of something. Now, granted, we already had Metroid Prime Remaster done earlier last month in February though. I fully think that Nintendo's probably going to keep going on this train and give us Metroid Prime 2 Remastered as well as Prime 3. Whether or not those are like individual releases or are those kind of like bundled together and they just throw 2 and 3 at us at the same time. Who knows at that point though, but I feel like they're going to slowly start doing that and then slowly get you accustomed to the Metroid Prime branding. So whenever Metroid Prime 4 finally does release, then everybody's accustomed to the Metroid Prime branding, because even when you look at Metroid and stuff like that, like shoot, you know, they got Metroid Fusion coming onto the service here, or actually it'll be on the service right now as of the point of this video dropping now. You had that up on there, you had Metroid Dread, that was the brand new 2D Metroid that just came out. You can literally play every 2D Metroid on this system, and then hopefully they add in all those Metroid Prime ones as well though. So yeah, I feel like you can drop a game like that, and then maybe we might get another remaster or a remake of something else. Now granted, I feel like at this point in the game, you wouldn't drop a brand new Mario Kart, a new 3D Mario. You just dropped a new 3D Zelda or whatnot though. Kirby and the Forgotten Land literally came out not too long ago. They probably could come up with some kind of Kirby spinoff. That would be a really easy one in there, considering how much Kirby gets new games and whatnot though. You wouldn't have obviously a new Smash Brothers. Splatoon 3 is still already getting updates. Animal Crossing is usually like one big one per year. So most of those heavy hitters, you save those and drop those out in like the first, you know, few years of what will be the new system. So those are all off the table. So at this point, you can either do a remake, remaster, or something like that of a game that has already been out, such as like maybe an F-Zero GX or something like that, a remaster of that. They could easily drop that, or maybe go in there, remaster, remake Kid Icarus Uprising. Like that game would have been swell, moving that from the 3DS and moving that up to the Switch. Any of those kind of second tier-ish kind of characters or whatnot though, or maybe even third tier in Nintendo's eyes in terms of all their IPs, that's what you kind of drop out in your later half of your system life. That way you can kind of bolster your library, get those big heavy hitters like your Splatoon, your Mario, Animal Crossings, Legend of Zeldas, and get those ready for whatever comes next. So yeah, thinking about all these different things with Nintendo not showing up at E3, because with them not showing up at E3 means that, you know, they don't have like those big major hitters that they normally would in past E3s, like your Smash Brothers Ultimate and things of that nature though. The fact that they're not doing that, the fact that when you look back at the past Nintendo Direct, there was nothing brand new that we hadn't already known about. And then considering how there's nothing dated beyond Pikmin 4 going into the second half of the year, which is something that we really hadn't kind of seen, at least not too often, bearing, keeping COVID out of the picture though. It does brings up some telling signs, considering how there's all these different reports about a new system coming out here fairly soon, as early as 2024. I just think the writing's on the wall that we're in for a very, but yet different, interesting second half of 2023 though. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below, what all do you think about all of this now that I kind of pieced together all these different pieces from the puzzle all together? Does some of this stuff kind of add up in your eyes? Are you kind of noticing some of the different things that might be writing on the wall? Whether it's, the stuff that, we didn't have a lot of new stuff back in that Nintendo Direct, or the fact that, Nintendo's not coming to E3 this year though, or the fact that we have all of these different reports and stuff about a new system being in the works that could drop as early as 2024. You just gotta let me know down in the comment section down below. But that's gonna basically do it in terms of this video though. So if you really like it, make sure to go and hit that like button, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things video game related I feel like talking about and discussing in the foreseeable future though. So remember y'all, until our video I make next, see y'all.